Hey Tony, it's Friday, and first off, to answer your question of the week, I'm glad. I really enjoy the steps New Zealand is taking because they're taking steps. They might not all be popular, they might not all necessarily be the right solution, but they're at least trying something, which is more than I can say about here in America. So now on to my main story this week. There were a couple things I was going to talk about this week, one of them being the Mueller report, but quite frankly, I don't the Mueller report got a lot of news this week. I don't really want to talk about that. So instead, I'm going to talk about something completely unrelated to any current happenings in the world. I want to talk about music. And the reason why I want to do that is because now you and I have always been music listeners. I'm never going anywhere without music playing in some way, shape, or form. And I've kind of noticed for the past few months how my taste in music has changed. So, 8 months ago, if you would have asked me what my favorite genre of music was, I would have told you alternative rock. Like punk, pop, alternative rock, that kind of stuff. Modern rock, things like 88.9 used to play, and my favorite station, Toledo, used to play. But it's actually really changed in about the last 6, 7 months or so. Because what I'm listening to a lot more is a lot more classic rock, and in particular, a lot more blues rock. Now, I know you and I used to grow up listening to classic rock all the time, but a lot of the classic I'm listening to right now is not really stuff we grew up listening to. I listen to a lot of Eric Clapton, who Mom and Dad we never really listened to with Mom and Dad. I'm listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin, who we never really listened to either. I listened to a lot of Jimi Hendrix, which we did listen to a lot, but I also have basically cut away from... I don't listen to any Aerosmith anymore. If I see them pop up on the radio, usually I'll actually change the station because I'm just not feeling Aerosmith usually. But if I see anything from like Cream pop up, I pop on that immediately. And I've just found it interesting on how music tastes change. So, growing up, obviously when we were kids, I loved pop music. I wanted to be the next Aaron Carter. And you can see that I'm not, because I am not a musician. I am not rich and famous. And, I work for a government agency. So, it's really not glamorous. But it's just kind of interesting that I loved pop music for years until about 5th, 6th grade. I started listening to more rock, particularly more modern rock, more pop punk, things like that. So kind of going over the bridge towards not pop music, but still having at least a firm foot in popular music. As I get a little older, particularly in undergrad, I was huge into indie music, which is just expected. You're an undergrad, you're probably gonna like your indie music. It's just kind of a rite of passage in a way. But as I've gotten older, now I'm not old by any stretch of the imagination. I might be closer to 30 than 20, but I'm not that much closer to 30 than 20. But I've really started to just get a incredible respect for the pioneers of rock. Like Eric Clapton and his guitar has become one of my favorite things to listen to because I've always enjoyed, at least in part, blues and jazz music. And when you combine it with electric guitar, like electric blues and blues rock, I've been listening to all the time lately. We were in Northampton a couple weeks ago and I picked up a Cream CD because that was just what I really wanted to listen to, and I've listened to that in the car frequently. It's just kind of interesting because growing up, I would have never thought I'd be a huge fan of like Led Zeppelin or Cream or Eric Clapton in general, or Kenny Wayne Shepherd, who's a bit of a newer artist. His biggest hit song came out in '99, but it plays on a lot of classic rock because he was very much a blues rock musician. Listen to a lot of him, listen to a lot of like Stevie Ray Vaughan, a lot of Jimi Hendrix. I've started to gain even more respect for Jimi Hendrix than I already had because that guitar is so phenomenal. Like the way Jimi Hendrix was able to just play the guitar still just leaves me awestruck to this day. And unfortunately, we never got to see him because he passed away well before you and I were born. But it's still kind of interesting just to listen to it and understand how influential these musicians are. Which kind of leads me to a bit of the modern rock. And I'm going to call it my issue with modern rock lately. It's not rock, really. It's become a lot slower, a lot softer. It's a lot more poppy than rocky, in my opinion, which is not a problem. Like, if that's what people want to listen to, that's what people want to listen to. Music tastes change, especially the popular music scene. I mean, you want to play something that was popular in like the 60s on a pop station now, nobody will listen to it. They just won't like it. It's just something I find very interesting on how music tastes change as a public at large, much as music tastes change in us. And I know right now I'm loving my classic rock and I'm loving my blues rock, Led Zeppelins. It's given me an appreciation that I didn't have when we were younger because we just didn't listen to it that much. But now that I listen to it, not every day, but most days, it started to really make me miss the music that we used to have. So Tony, my question for you is, what music have you been listening to lately? Tony, I'll see you on Tuesday. Later, bro.